about maybe 5 different functions, 5 different departments in Apple, and explain what they are and what they do. Then I would briefly talk about the structure of your case study, of your organization, because this will affect how the different departments interact with each other. So in the spoke wheel hierarchy for Apple, obviously marketing is going to have a big impact in terms of what happens there. So we know that marketing has to identify the needs of customers. And Apple, if you see the way their iPhone 1 has changed from their iPhone 6 and iPhone 7, it's completely different. It's a completely different product entirely. And that's because customers' needs have been changing. Customers actually want and desire different needs as technology has progressed. Or these needs are already latent and already exist. So these companies are now just satisfying latent needs. So once we've done those 3 things, the next thing I would suggest to do is to give some specific examples in terms of your case study. So one of the things that marketing needs to do, obviously, is to identify the needs of customers, because you can't just produce what you want. You can't just give the customers what they want. You must satisfy customers' needs. You identify what the customers want, and then once you identify their needs, you satisfy those needs by making the product. So, for instance, the phone now, iPhone, has become more slimlined. It has more apps. You can do more things in it. The camera resolution is better, and you've got more functionality in it, and you can link with more things in the wider internet type arena. So what does this mean? So if, for instance, Apple, if the marketing department has undertaken their marketing research, and in their marketing research, they've identified that customers want a slimmer model of the iPhone, and not only do they want a slimmer model of the iPhone, they also want, for instance, a better camera with better resolution, and the camera also must then link to the social media such as YouTube and Facebook, and then be able to then be transported and linked also to their laptops and cloud type technology. So if, for instance, the marketing department has identified that as a need, and they move the new product development team in terms of developing these products, well, it's not only going to affect the new product development team, but you've got other departments it's going to affect. It's also going to affect the hardware department, because in Apple you have a hardware department where there's a senior vice principal of hardware, and the hardware will make sure that the phone has the right hardware in it to operate. Otherwise, it will not be able to do all the functions that you want it to do. But it's not just the hardware that you need to make sure that you have. You also need to make sure that you have the right software, because if the software is not linked to the right hardware to make sure it's compatible, then the hardware and software won't work, and then the phone won't work. How often have we seen where phones have bugs in it, and this application or that application is not working as it should work because the hardware is not tied into the software, or the software is not tied into the hardware, or vice versa? So we can see from this perspective that when marketing have identified a need, for example, then that need will then need to be developed in terms of the new product development team. Manufacturing will need to be involved into developing the new product specifications. Hardware department would need to obviously talk to the marketing department, who would need to talk to the software department to make sure that the hardware and the software is actually compatible, because they can't be independent, they need to be working together. And this is the point about marketing. Whenever marketing is introducing a new product development, then it's going to affect other functions from a wider organizational context. And if marketing are not talking and not having these interrelationships between these other departments, then the company is going to lose money and resources. The company is going to become inefficient, because things are going to happen and things are not going to work, which is going to damage reputation and lose the company money. So you need this working relationship in terms of what marketing is doing and the direction marketing is going in all their activities, and how it affects other departments. Let's take another example for Apple, because we're doing the Apple case study. So if Apple, for example, was going to open up a new retail store and marketing, one of the mix of the 7Ps, extended marketing mix. The extended marketing mix obviously is the product, price, place, promotion, people, process, and physical evidence. So in the 7 mix, we can see that place, in terms of distribution, retail outlets, in terms of the Apple stores, here we can see in Covent Garden, where is the store going to be placed? Well, the store is not going to be placed in any local high street. It's not going to be placed in any local town. It's in the heart of London. It's in a busy, vibrant location. And if marketing identified that stores need to be opened up in busy, vibrant locations like Covent Garden, how does this affect other departments? Well, if Apple, and they have billions in resources, were going to open up a new store, then obviously the finance department would need to make sure that there are appropriate resources available to buy or lease or rent that store. The legal department would need to be involved in terms of making sure that all the legal ramifications and specifications are on point to make sure that everything goes through smoothly and that they can actually start operating in that store. The HR department would need to be involved, because what about the staff in here? The staff in here to run this shop. You have staff floor members, you will have supervisors, you will have management, and you will have store management. And all these different requirements on the different types of people will require different types of people with different experience and different qualifications. And marketing are not going to do that, but obviously that is going to be a function of HR. And then, you know, what about the merchandising team? The merchandising team to merchandise this Apple store. How is this Apple store going to be merchandised? So when marketing are saying that we need to open up a new store, and one of the stores that we need to open up is going to be in Covent Garden, well, and this is the day that we need to open it, and this is the day that we're going to launch it, well, then it needs to link in with all the other departments, and all the other departments need to be in sync with the marketing department in terms of their timescales and deadlines to make sure that, in fact, they can actually meet those deadlines and timescales. Because if they can't meet those deadlines and timescales for all these things to be completed, then the marketing promotions and the marketing mix is going to be useless when opening this new store. So it is absolutely imperative that marketing, any function that marketing does in terms of the marketing mix from an operational level and even from a strategic level, is going to affect other departments in the organization. And as we've said before, that marketing is a mutually satisfying exchange at a profit in the long term. So, we're saying that if marketing is not working with and doesn't relate or operates in isolation to the wider organizational context, then the company are going to make mistakes. The company are going to lose money from those mistakes, and the company is going to become inefficient. So, in other words, whatever marketing are doing in terms of the roles and responsibilities is obviously going to relate to the wider organizational context in terms of affecting other departments within that company. And the responsibilities obviously are going to be target-led, in terms of the aims and objectives. And in terms of meeting those aims and objectives, the responsibilities in meeting those is going to be making sure that the marketing is on point to make sure that the retail store hits their monthly or 3 monthly targets. And if it's not happening, then why isn't it happening? And what do they need to do to make it happen? Is it more promotions? Is it customers are going to other competition? Is it the price points? What exactly is it? So again, marketing can then react, or has the responsibility to react from a wider organizational context to make sure that those are met. Okay, so let's recap on the question now. So the question said, explain, keyword, go into more detail, how the roles and responsibilities of marketing relate to the wider organizational context. Another keyword here is to relate. So relate. So the first thing I would do is recap and talk about the roles and responsibilities of marketing. The roles and responsibilities of marketing being the mission statement, the internal, external analysis, the marketing strategy, the use of the extended marketing mix, and then the implementation and control. And then the next thing I would do, I would talk about, different functions in the case study that you're looking at. So you may want to talk about, for instance, if it's Apple, you may want to talk about the hardware department, the software department, the marketing department, the HR department, the sales department, IT department, admin department. So you can talk about finance department, and explain these briefly. The next thing to do, I would suggest, in terms of the case study, is look at the organizational structure. And because this is obviously how the organizational structure also dictates how the different departments and functions work and interrelate to each other. So in the case of Apple, talk about the spoke wheel hierarchical structure where Tim Cook is at the center, and then talk about the two tiers being the upper tier and the lower tier. The upper tier by the SVPs, the senior vice principals, and the lower tier by the VPs, the vice principals, which are divisional and product based, and these vice principals